Okay, welcome back to our AWS Connect Contact Center training. We're going through a playlist now which is talking about contact lens. And so what we're going to do is we're going to show you a very simple intro to contact lens evaluation forms. So if you go to your Amazon Connect Administrator panel and you look at analytics and optimization, you'll see the features of contact lens. And we're going to go through each one of these, but we're going to talk about evaluation forms right now. And so let's take a look at evaluation forms and let's just introduce one. So I'm going to create a new form and I'm going to call it agent support. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is see, I have my title up here, agent support. Now there's different sections here. Now the sections we won't get into it right now, but let's call because you can have different sets of questions for the evaluation. So we're evaluating an agent, and we could evaluate whether the agent introduced himself well, whether he ended the conversation well, and we could put that in this section. We could also create a different section and look at that particular agent's sentiment. Okay, so the sections are just to categorize some of the questions in the evaluation form. So we'll take a look at that later. But let's just move forward with something really simple. Let's call this greeting, and let's ask a question. Now, remember, this is a QA agent or AWS Connect admin trying to evaluate an agent. So the first question I ask is, uh, did the agent greet properly? Now, that's something that the agent can get evaluated on, but it's also something we could mandate because what we could do is we could define certain things the agent must say when they greet the customer when the customer calls in. So, but this is as simple as it gets. Did the agent greet properly? Now remember that I could be the QA agent listening to the conversation and looking at the transcription and making and answering this question manually. Or we could figure out whether the agent said a certain phrase, and if this agent said that phrase like "Welcome to Home Task AI" or whatever, how can I help you today? If he says some phrases, he or she says some phrases, then basically they could get rated automatically, right? They could get rated intelligently. And so remember that here, now I have a single selection here. We do have a text field or a number. Uh, we could rate the agent with this, or we could say single detection. Now, the reason why you might want the single detection is because we're going to say it's either yes or no. And so that answer, yes or no, is binary. It's easy to map to yes or no. Now, how do you define a greeting to be proper? You could define that with rules, or you could just have a QA agent say, "I don't like the way he greeted the customer." But anyway, so let's just do that and say, okay, did the agent greet properly? Okay, that's a question. I'm going to put a question mark here. And And I'm going to say the answer is either yes or no. Yes, no. Now, I could add another option and say, kind of, right? I mean, it's not, it might not be yes or no unless there's a definite mandatory way an agent can greet a customer. And there is going to be rules that the agent must say certain phrases in order for this agent greet to be proper. But right now it's pretty a free form thing. I could add an option to just say it's not a mandatory option. I could just say maybe. But anyway, the optional question is not applicable. Uh, can be marked not applicable, whatever. Okay, let's ask another question. Actually, let's before we do that, let's go to scoring. And let's go to scoring and let's say now it's telling me enable scoring for this form to assign a score to this question. Okay. Okay, let me go to scoring and weights up here. And I'm going to enable scoring. Okay, now let me go back to here and let me go to score. Okay, so did the agent greet properly? Now, this could have been a generic question. Did the agent help with your issue? It's either yes or no. But this is the example I took right now. So I'm going to say if it's yes, I'm going to give them a 10 out of 10. And I'm going to say if they say no, I'm going to give them an automatic fail. Just for an example, um, to show what's going on here. So let me create this. Um, and let me now go to actions and say preview. Now here's a preview of what's happening. So this preview that you're looking at, okay, it could be a QA agent that's looking at the contact trace record, that's looking at the recordings, that's listening to seeing the transcription, listening to the audio, and really, it looks like I'm gonna answer this to be yes. Um, and so this agent gets 100%. Okay. If I answered this no, uh, the agent got a zero. He failed um, greeting the customer. So when the user sees when the user agent, like the QA agent that's evaluating the agents, um, they could be manually answering this question. Now, now what you can do, let's just take a look at the automation of this. Okay, so the use case we just looked at was no automation, which means the customer's calling in the phone, the agent's answering, and the agent is greeting the customer and everything else like that. If the QA agent goes and evaluates that contract record, those recordings, the chat transcript, the sentiment of the customer, whatever, since there's no automation, they could fill out the form and rank that agent. Okay. So notice that's kind of unfair, kind of biased, and at the same time, um, it's a little bit more complicated than you might imagine, right? Because maybe you didn't train your agent to greet the customer properly. So that's the other thing. And so now you can create contact lens categories with option two. And the question could be answered based on the presence or absence of certain contact lens categories. So, in other words, here's a category customer's going to cancel. Here's a category the customer is very unhappy and wants a refund. Um, uh, Here's another category um, high idle time. Customer was waiting for the agent to answer, and it went on for a long time, more than 45 seconds. And so, a large idle time, etc. So that's option two. You could create these categories and have the automation automatically answer the questions based on the categories. And then there's a third option, which is a generative AI option. So this is generative AI. It determines, was the customer interrupted? Did the customer have to repeat the problem over and over again? And and this is the ideal thing you want to use because it uses an intelligent agent to really figure out what were the real problems with this phone call. Um, and so these three options you have to choose, and the one I just chose was the no automation. But keep that in mind because if I had categories and I could mark this evaluation with categories, um, we'd be creating categories and trying to classify the conversation into these categories. So a conversation can have multiple categories: cancellation category, uh, you know, uh, a large idle time category, and maybe even a interrupt customer category, whatever it may be. And then of course this would be the intelligent, more intelligent automated process that uses Gen AI, which is probably the most powerful one. But just keep that in mind. So so I just wanted to show you that, and and that's the first let's say evaluation. So I could save it, I could activate it. Now at this point I have version one of my evaluation form. And so it's not a good form. It's not multi-question. It doesn't have multiple questions. It's not really a fair thing because you probably didn't train the agent or even tell the agent what the greetings have to be. So it's just an example, and it's activated by this user who's the AWS connected min, who is right now that QA agent that's evaluating the agents. Okay, very simple, very introductory form. So let's stop the video here, and just move on to more complicated examples.